Hi, Vincent. Hi, Rand. Thank you so much for joining me because, we weren't really sure what kind of audience to expect. I knew I could answer all of the questions regarding the iSchool. And Professor McKnight must have gotten tied up in another event because he was supposed to be here to kind of present our research. So if you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with your research and your interest in smart cities, and Vincent, we can start with you. That would be great, and I can answer any questions regarding the programs, but you can run the show.
Well, both Ren and I are part of a student group at Syracuse called YTech, and there's a big focus on end-to-end, cloud architecture there, where the smart cities plays a big role in that. Professor McKnight's here, and he can actually speak better to that, so I'm going to hand the mic over to him.
Well, thank you so much. And no, Vince, you're great. And I would like to go to Rand next, actually. Rand, why don't you introduce yourself?
Look for the mute control at the top, Professor McKnight.
Let's see, which...
Okay. Yeah, I'm just like Vince. I'm a doctoral student with Syracuse University. Like Vince, we both also graduated from the master's program, so we extended ourselves into the doctorate program. I'm doing a lot of great stuff with Dr. McKnight on the smart city, as well as a lot of different projects that Dr. McKnight is working on. But I'll let him introduce that from there.
I'm still looking for my mute. Am I muted, or can you hear me?
You are not muted. You're good to go.
Oh, I am good. Okay, very good. So very pleased to be with you, and thanks Susan, Vince, and Rand for kicking things off. Syracuse University is very pleased to have been able to work closely with Cyber Trust America and its predecessor, Adaptable Security, and with the federal government and the private sector companies since 2018 on related research, including on the concept of secure cloud architecture for smart cities. That was our initial task as from research, which we carried forward into this forum. We've been involved in many different ways, which I'm not going to go into all now, but we have ongoing work also on regional and smart city scale secure cloud architectures, which is now becoming recognized as a thing, not just for corporate networks, but really critical for cities and communities as well. And I'll stop there since we could, again, if the rest of you permitted me, I just talked the whole time and we want to have a conversation.
So I asked earlier, I'm not so sure that my technology was working back then. But if you could just put in the chat a little bit about who you are and where you're working, maybe we can, generate a discussion that's of great value to you. So that might be helpful, as well as using the chat for any questions that you have. So I know I have three very talkative gentlemen right here. So we'll just keep taking turns, and I'll start pointing to them, and they can talk a little bit more about what they're doing. Hello, William.
Hello, William.
Nice to meet you.
So tell us a little bit about you in Syracuse. What do you do there?
Actually, Syracuse is my hometown. It's where originally I am from. I left Syracuse in 1988 to join the military. I did 7.5 years in the Navy, 2.5 years in the Army, another 6 years at the Department of Defense before moving from California out to Florida. So I'm currently in Florida.
Great.
Isn't it very strange for people to change branches in the military?
Surprisingly, actually, it's not.
Really? Okay.
It actually happens all the time. What I did was called going from blue to green. So at the time I was in the Navy, towards the end of my time in the Navy, there was a large reduction in force within the Navy itself. Okay. And so I got out, and then the Army called me up and said, hey, you can do the same job, just different uniform. I was like, all right. And then eventually after a while, I got back into doing IT work, and then I went and got a job with the Department of Defense and spent 3 years in Iraq.
Okay. What's your interest in the smart cities?
And
So-
cybersecurity.
So I don't know if any of you know who Rod Soto is, but he's leading up the Capture the Flag, which currently I'm still in first place on that. But I've done
Great.
actually with him and the team down here in South Florida. We work together with a group called Hack Miami or Percent 27.
Mhm.
And it's like a bit of a think tank that a lot of us we used to meet up every other Saturday and just kind of go over various different topics. And I did a couple of topics on doing penetration testing with regard to like smart cities.
Great. So you're neighboring, but not exactly part of the Coral Gables cabal, I guess.
That's where all the rich people live, so no. No, I currently live and work in Fort Lauderdale.
Mhm. Great.
Nobody from Syracuse ever wants that sentence, right?
And do you miss the Department of Defense work, or are you happier in non-defense now?
So yes and no. It's not fun getting shot at, obviously, but the work that we did was really, really cool. The last groups that I was with over there, we did what I'm not sure if you're familiar with what they call ISR, Intelligence, Surveillance, and Reconnaissance. So I was actually part of special airplanes that were designed with special radars on board the airplanes that would look down, and we would fly over areas that the convoys would be rolling over. And then we would fly in the same area, same pattern again, like a half hour just before the convoy rolled out. And the computers that we had on board would do change detection. So you could actually see footprints in the sand. You could see soil that had been disturbed, and that's how we were able to locate IEDs.
Important stuff.
We have adjunct professor at Syracuse, John Fox, and he also did a lot of work in military intelligence in Iraq. Same role, but using AI to identify safe routes as opposed to what you were doing with their surveillance and the the image matching.
They have a bunch of really weird platforms that were out there when I was out there, and it was interesting work to say the least. Each one had a different role, and they had different ways of doing a counter IED.
Mm-hmm.
John actually works in at Walmart right now, and he one time did a lecture for me that was basically the algorithms for locating AIDs is the same thing I use to decide where I'm putting soup on the shelf in the Walmart store. So it really, he had a much better title than I just explained it, but it really was like, what? Like, this thing that is so critical to saving lives is the same technology we're using to figure out how we might make 1/10 of a cent and sell another can of soup. So
I can see that. The biggest factor there is, human beings are predictable.
Some, not all. So while we're on that topic, if I could simply share my screen, because I don't know even if Vince is around, if you're aware of this, we have two things that I want to make sure you're aware of. So I'm going to quickly just share my screen with you and go through them really quickly. Can you see that now?
I can see it.
Okay, I have a weird thing saying you are screen sharing, so I don't see it very well. But
Yeah,
is
we
it
can
clear
see
to
it.
you?
Yep,
Mhm.
it's pretty clear.
Okay, so that's funny because it does not look clear to me. So
Even with the QR
okay.
code, it's showing the QR code just really nicely. So
Yep,
the
yep.
little dinosaur.
I don't know who picked the dinosaur, but I was just glad they created the QR code for me. So just to let you know that next week we're having something called Data Science Day, and John Fox, the professor you talked about, is one of our presenters. So this is a in-person and a virtual event. So I'm assuming that the virtual event would be of interest to you. So please pass it on to anybody. We would love to get great attendance here and a real diversity. It is really designed for for both a person who does not know anything about data science as well as somebody who's looking to learn a little bit more about it, but is certainly not it's not a highly technical. You'll see when you see the thing. And go ahead. Did someone have a question?
I'll just tease Susan, since we have Data Science Day and it's 2 days. We're a little off on the map.
How we are not. It's 2 dates. It's 1 day because the day is 24 hours.
Very good. Touche. Very good.
It starts at 3 o'clock one day, 4 o'clock. It ends at 3:15. So it is 1 day.
Okay.
You know, I hate these critical thinkers, right? They always try to one-up you, right? Anyways, I wanted to also let you know, I know this was announced yesterday, but the Smart Cities Professional Training Program that we're doing in conjunction with the Maxwell School. There's more information about that as well. So I can stop sharing because I now have done my duties.
Okay. Oh, no, you could keep it up for a little bit. I'll just say a little bit more about this short course. Yeah. So thanks, Susan, for sharing this as well. It's a new offering. It won't require you to leave sunny Southern California to come, north to get a certificate in the leading smart cities with trust if you are interested. But it would be the curriculum is aligned with this new. I mean, obviously knowing all the military security standards and that you've gotten to whatever we're proposing for smart cities is not quite as rigorous as that, but is built off of the same sort of NIST cybersecurity risk management framework. So there's a new document coming out on risk management for smart cities, I think, from NIST, which the curriculum for this is aligned with, and we have both Maxwell iSchool faculty and all kinds of top leaders like Len Jensen, and Michael Dunaway from NIST also participating. So it could be fun, and so I encourage you to consider that as well, if it's of interest, or pass on the word to others.
Okay.
One other thing to note that I think Stu can probably get into a little bit more details is that from the military aspects, Syracuse is a highly regarded school that has, it is certified for, the DoD as well as other governmental agencies. If you're looking at from a military side, we actually have 2 of our cohorts are actually from the military, from the Army. They just got promoted because being in the program for the doctoral program. But they have also insights of, there's different types of, with your military background, if you have money and stuff like that coming from the military for your education, that could be utilized. And there's some programs as well as people that you can talk to get more information about that.
Okay.
Thank you, Rand. Yeah, we have we developed a partnership with the Army Signal Center in Augusta at Fort Gordon a long time ago, and so because of that, many of the Army officers that are signal officers know a lot about Syracuse and have their bosses tell them to go to Syracuse and everything. So long history there that's quite been great for our school and hopefully great for the Army as well.
Yeah, I just remember like the 3.5 to 4 feet of snow in the wintertime that
Well, that's the benefit of global warming. We don't get it anymore.
Oh, ouch.
Yeah.
No,
well, I've been saying for many years that global warming is good for Syracuse, and unfortunately it's true. The winters are like 30 days shorter than probably in your day. Honestly, not that we don't get snow. Actually, some years it's still snowy. Other years you're saying, gee, this is Syracuse, what's going on? And you say, oh, it's global warming. So, but.
Yeah.
And also to note, these programs are all online. Vince and myself, we're from the West Coast, so we're taking the programs online. And then that's basically the Army officers as well as other people that in the particular program, they're all taking it online. We've had people I've seen in the master's program is at all different types of time zones. I had people from classes from Singapore to India to where they're stationed in Hawaii. There was a commanding officer that was stationed in Hawaii that we had 5 different time zones in one class. It is that right now the online portions makes a lot more flexible for, so you don't have to necessarily be on boots on the ground at Syracuse, but you can. It's up to you.
Yeah, Rand and I hedge our bets. So he's SoCal, I'm up in Oregon. So a lot less snow in both of these locales. We do go out for residencies, though. But tell us what you're interested in. Are you interested in hearing the latest from Syracuse, or are you pursuing ideas for a terminal degree or anything?
Like I said, I'm heavily involved in my company's security, and I know that Rod Soto from Hack Miami, we've done a lot of like experimentation with smart cities, and mostly on I would say a bit of the purple side, if you will. So it's not really red, not really blue team. We're kind of sort of the purple side. In fact, one of the things that I did when I was with them last time was we were actually surveying down in Miami using a Cantena and locating some of the wireless networks that were just left wide open.
Yeah.
But we do stuff like that and try to just mostly keep it professional and, like I said, networking back and forth. And if we can find a decent learning capability or opportunity, then we bring it around to our group when we have our meetups on Saturdays.
Of the speakers you've heard, has anybody resonated with you more? And I'm sure Dr. McKnight is on that list, but has anybody resonated with you more than others? I thought this morning's keynote was interesting, but I could not actually get the speaker's name. They didn't have badges at the bottom, so I don't know what it was, but she had a cat. That's all I know.
No, not really. I mean, it was a couple of some of the security ones with regard to IoT, which I thought was a pretty interesting talk from yesterday, as a matter of fact, which definitely brought up a very, very interesting point about, I don't know if you guys remember, but when the DEF CON hacked into Caesar's Palace because of the IoT thermometer that was attached to the fish tank, like in the middle of it was like bam. And I was pretty amazed by that when it happened, and when he brought it up again in yesterday's talk, I was like, thinking to my own self, how could I help my own company, which is Cisco, start looking at some of our IoT things that people have like put together in a closet and never updated and things like that. So yeah, that was the only other major talk. Other than that, I've just been doing the CTF this afternoon.
What are you doing with Cisco? I know they're. I'm seeing from CISA, just as far as hardware updates and things like that. But what area of Cisco do you work with?
So I actually work with the WebEx team for Cisco.
Mm-hmm.
So going back about 4 years, I got hired on at a company called 3C Interactive after Akamai started shutting down some of their South Florida business areas. So I got picked up by 3C. They got bought out 2 years ago by a company called IMI Mobile, and then Cisco bought out IMI Mobile. So I'm Cisco. And I work, like I said, in the I am a network systems engineer, which is a Linux guy, basically, just to keep things going.
Got it. Yeah, so I've worked with Cisco off and on over many decades, and always an interesting company. We work closely on the bring your own device, mobile device management stuff about a decade ago with myself and Wall Street CIOs to make sure that like every time somebody brought their personal device into a company or office, it wouldn't leak all the stupid things people downloaded, wouldn't just suck up the corporate data set. So anyway, it obviously kind of worked out, and obviously there are plenty of other problems, but at least that's not constantly happening.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and I totally understand where you're coming from, and then I guess in that case, I probably would be one of the guys that accidentally breaks that rule.
Yeah.
So in your line, William, So when NIST is pursuing cybersecurity objectives, whether it's the Executive Order 14028 or if it's the standards for post-quantum cryptography, in your role, are you responsive to that? Is it something that actually ends up, on the desks of people in your positions? How much influence does it have?
I wouldn't say I am particularly like with regard to the influencing on side. I mostly am just taking existing infrastructure that we have within the companies and actually making sure that everything there stays up to date. And of course, being on the security side, I also help the company identify like some of the issues that we may be having or possibly going to be having down the road.
Yeah. So more of a contributor role.
Right.
I don't see you on LinkedIn, but I'm going to put my LinkedIn in the chat. If you would like to connect, I would welcome that.
I believe it's Will Met at LinkedIn.
Well, there's a question from you. It says, are you in the lead on the leaderboard on CTF?
Yes, the rest of my team from Canada didn't manage to make it on, so it was just me today, and my team name is Local Host.
That's a great name.
Not very original, but whatever. And there's not that many teams. Other CTFs we've been on had many, many more teams. We're much more competitive.
Found you. Great photos in your banner there.
Thank you.
Consider this discussion my personalized note that I'm not adding to the connect request.
That's fine.
Well, Rand and I, we finally, post-pandemic, were able to be on the ground in Syracuse for the residency as opposed to Zoom residency. And it was my first time in Syracuse, although my friend is convinced we were there for a Bowie concert back in 1982 or nearabouts. But yeah, it was great to see the campus. You probably walked around the campus back in the day.
I have.
Mm-hmm.
But beautiful city. We got downtown and got to see the School of Design, which is located down there. It was a great trip. I think I'll have to stay longer next time.
Yeah, like I said, I mostly grew up in North Syracuse and Cicero.
That's my side of town. I live in Brewerton.
Actually, my first house was in Brewerton. If you remember where the raceway is,
Mm-hmm.
I used to live right across the street from it.
Oh, do you have hearing damage?
Sorry?
Do you have hearing damage? Sorry, what?
Yes, yeah, I do. But that was mostly from working with F-14 Tomcats when I was in the Navy. So
Should have done.
not
Yeah.
using more hearing protection. But yes.
I actually live a few miles from it, but Friday night, that's all you hear.
Oh yeah, and Saturday mornings the cars are all covered in dust.
Oh, look at Benny's an alum too.
Well, Benny's son is an alum.
Oh, I didn't read it completely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Professor McKnight. So
Yeah.
Well, great.
Yeah, Benny is a friend and longtime contributor to the whole NIST GCTC. Well, across I don't know how many different super clusters you've been involved with, Benny, from the cybersecurity and privacy one, and probably the data one as well. But yeah, we got a kind of a ringer all-star here. I think you're currently an elected official in some city in California, aren't you, Benny? I think like running, keeping the sewage program or some kind of program safe. Everything's critical infrastructure. Okay. Is it San Leandro, Benny? If that's right? Well, anyway, so I think he just graduated, Susan, Ben's son, maybe last semester.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sanitary district. All right. So I wasn't insulting Benny. I was accurate.
Nothing
Yeah,
like a
so
little
then you
sanitation humor.
have to spread the word on the data science programs and our short course here.
Well, you've got me interested in the Raceway in Syracuse. Rand and I will add that to our list of, besides the crypto mining up in up in Messina, we'll have to add the Raceway to our list of tour sites next time we're out there in May.
I can give you a whole list of things you can do.
Mhm.
But
I bet you
for
can.
your family, if you're going to bring them here, there are just some beautiful areas of Central New York where you can get a cottage for a week. You can study a little bit, then join them later. So lots of nice places.
And coming up with the fall, Syracuse, and you start getting up into the mountainous areas, actually is pretty beautiful in the
Oh, yeah.
fall time.
Fall foliage season on us now.
Well, I was originally on the wrong side of that equation. Undergrad was at RIT, and there wasn't a lot of, you got down to the Finger Lakes, you headed out Syracuse way. There was things to look at, but Rochester in the winter, no, not so much. It just laid low and waited for the snow to melt.
Well, that's why it's such a good academic program. Because all you got to do is study, right? My husband is actually an RIT alum.
I'll bet he had a fancier degree than my photography degree, though. I'll bet it's in physics or something more compelling.
Mechanical engineering.
There you go.
I think one of the universities I found out working in the Department of Defense that it kind of blew me away because it wasn't what I expected, was MIT, Lincoln Labs.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed.
Huh.
So we had two radars on our airplane, a UHF and a synthetic aperture radar. And the UHF radar was made by MIT's Lincoln Labs. And the synthetic aperture radar was made by Sandia National Labs. So if you're familiar with Sandia, they make our nukes. Their entire code was written in C, I think C+ and C#, worked flawless. It was just perfect, worked excellent. MIT Lincoln Labs, on the other hand, they wrote everything in Java. And we would be up, can't say the altitude, but we'd be up and I'd be going through the checklist and getting the UHF radar up and running. And I'm communicating with the mission commander and the air crew itself to get the airplane lined up, and then it would just go down. And MIT Lincoln, it just constantly went down. So I'm more like looking when I look for the schools and the education places for studying up on certain things. I look mostly what their track record is, rather than, what's in a name really doesn't impress me so much anymore. Especially what I saw out at Sandia National Labs, it was really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like we have another guest, Shannon.
Hi, Shannon.
Shannon,
Shannon.
just to explain what we're doing, we had such a small group, we decided to invite everybody on stage and just have a nice discussion. You're more than welcome to join us if you would like. Just you can just chat that you'd like to join us, or you can just introduce yourself in the chat and ask us any questions that way.
We're trying to convince you to join us on stage, though, Shannon. It would be great to have a conversation.
Yeah, they got me on.
Mm-hmm.
I could really use a partner here. I'm with this tight-knit technical group.
I don't know if you've noticed our competing dogs, Sue. In the background, yeah, they're like doppelgangers separated by a continent. But
have my dogs been coming in? Have you seen them?
I have, yes.
Okay.
I haven't noticed hers, but I did notice Vincent's.
Yeah, I saw Vincent's. I didn't.
You probably
see
saw
mine.
me throwing the biscuit over my shoulder to.
Oh,
to keep
mine!
them
I
occupied.
can even. Come here, Stanley. Come here. I have two dogs. I have a big dog and a small dog. So it's the little one that came over to be with us.
So, William, do you think that? Excuse me a second. You think the difference between it couldn't have just been the language they chose? What do you think the difference was in quality between the two labs?
So there was a lot going on with the airplane that I don't think a lot of the school took in account when they were designing the platform itself. Like, for example, I can tell you that the airplane was a Bombardier Dash 8, which is a Canadian-made airplane, and which is a fairly sizable airplane. I think we had probably a total of 10 workstations, and the vibrations presented a bit of a challenge. Sandia National Labs ahead of time said this is going on an airplane, so they made sure all the disks were solid state. Whereas MIT Lincoln Labs just initially gave us spinning platters.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit of a problem, especially when you're up to 200 knots and you get a little bit of turbulence going on. But the biggest problem was, honestly, I think it was the Java.
Okay.
It just like it would fire up and you're looking at the barber pole, so to speak. I'm looking at the green on the screen. Everything looks good, and then something went awful with the Java code, and it would just crash. And which is not a good word to be using on an airplane, but it would just stop working, and we'd have to start all over again, reboot everything for that particular platform. And eventually, I think they kind of sort of gave up on it. But the Sandia National Labs, that was just some really, really cool technology that they had. They had it down solid.
Where are they located, Sandia National?
Sandia National Labs, I was in New Mexico.
Okay.
So it's on a facility that's within an Air Force base in Albuquerque. So you've got to go through two separate security checkpoints, one for the Air Force and then one to get into the Department of Energy for Sandia National Labs.
The spinning platters reminds me of the old the Apple Music playing devices. Were those called iPods? Where there was this little miniature hard drive. Heaven help you if you handed it to my autistic daughter, because that would be it for that hard drive. I was looking forward to the solid state version.
For sure. Yeah, I'm actually probably a little bit older than I appear. In fact, my daughters are both Air Force.
Okay.
And I'm looking forward to them doing what they got to do and then getting their college time in afterwards. So what track they're going to take, I don't know yet, but
Great. Okay, I'm actually doing double duty on a session with Air Force Research Labs now that I should probably get back to after hanging out with you guys for a while. So I'll say really nice meeting you, William,
likewise.
And see you in Florida or Syracuse or online again someday. And thanks, Rand, Vince, and Susan. Bye.
Thanks, Lee. Take care. Bye-bye.
That Air Force Research Lab, being so close to Syracuse, that's some interesting work. That's a partnership that's being actively developed. We're hoping there's great things that come out of it, as part of that partnership.
I could possibly see that. I mean, the Air Force, in my opinion, has the best money and probably far better schools than any of the other branches. I know frequently when I was in the Army or the Navy, we typically we'd get jealous of them.
They have a public-facing entity called Innovari now, and it's pretty new, so it probably wasn't around back in the day. And they had an exposition there where all of the branches, the research labs, showed up, and the amount of collective work going on at those labs, as far as just cutting edge in the areas of quantum computing, is the one I was most interested in.
Sure.
Really impressive. And that's only what they could talk about, because we were in the public-facing conference.
I was actually fairly surprised this last year. My team from Canada and down here in Florida, we actually participated in the Hack-A-Sat competition at DEF CON. I was actually surprised that the Air Force actually put something like that out on the open and let everybody have at it. That was a hell of a challenge.
Yeah.
We had a pretty good time. I mean, it made a lot of sense, the fact that, Tesla brings one out to DEF CON every year. They bring their own vehicle out there and say, have at it, tell us what you think. And everybody goes to town trying to get into it. And for the Air Force to wake up and say, hey, we can participate in something like that too, that was pretty impressive.
It's actually very interesting that they're spending a lot more time trying to get a little bit more interfacing with the private sector as well as the combination. It was like what you said. It's just getting really good ideas, and then how did these really good ideas looking at from the perspective of the military, especially around security. They're trying to figure out
Sure.
different things that they need to bring to and get a better understanding, because obviously military security is the number one thing they focus on from that aspect. So it's a constant evolution of how technology, especially emerging technologies and disruptive technologies, how does that impact their current infrastructure, and what's different kind of things that they need to kind of take a look at.
Sure.
And that's almost right, goes right into where good old Vince is kind of studying in that particular area, and that's why he keeps on bringing up quantum, because it is an interesting paradigm where quantum is going to be fitting in, especially from you're looking at from security infrastructure, whether it's cloud edge technology. That's where Dr. Lee his expertise is in. He's got so many different expertises, but he's been focusing a lot of the secure cloud edge, secure cloud infrastructure, how that impacts it, with a lot of stuff that's going on.
Very cool.
We have a great quantum program, at the school, but it's part of the physics department, and it's not really connected to the School of Information Studies, although I would love to build those bridges. But Rand and I are studying it from organizational perspective. So with the new standard coming out in the post-quantum cryptography, I'm looking at ways to influence organizational readiness, not really talking about quantum computing at all, but just how to kind of light up organizations to even look at the new NIST standard and consider applying it today. Although I did go to a quantum hackathon in the spring, and the level of talent and innovation that is going on in that space right now humbled me. And this is students, coming from all over the world to put their best foot forward on, innovating on that space.
I think I probably had the same epiphany the first time I went to a DEF CON back in 2003. I was absolutely amazed.
So I have to go prep for another meeting. So I am going to close out now, but I believe that you can all continue even without me. Is that right, Jenny? If I leave, even though I'm the host?
Yes, you can leave the keynote on the main stage.
William, if you're good and Shannon doesn't have any questions, it might actually just be a good time to wrap up. There's another event at 12:50 that we're kind of lining up with. So
Sure.
what do you
Nice
think?
meeting you all.